So this is the last ride with the Metzeler K3RR tyres. What have I got now? Oh, exactly 3,500 kilometres. Got a 200 kilometre trip today. That will definitely be the end of the front tyre anyway, which I'll give you a look at in a moment. It's pretty buggered now. The sides are pretty well scrubbed out. There's virtually no siphoning, no tread left. On the sides of the tyres, a pretty good time with these tyres. Can highly recommend them. They stick like proverbial shit to a blanket, but having only gotten 3,500 kilometres out of them, I won't be buying another set. This is an MT-07 with a few mods, pretty light bike, probably putting out about 75 horsepower, and I've gotten 3,500 k's out of these tyres. There's probably 1,000 kilometres left on the back tyre, but if I get caught out in the wet with the front tyre the way it is now, yeah, I'll be looking at low siding it in every corner. So are they worth it? Oh, if you don't mind getting 3,500 k's out of your tyres, most definitely they are worth it. It's probably got the best front end traction of any tyre I've ever had on a motorbike. Same with the rear end, pretty much. The only few times that it's slipped up a little bit is driving hard coming out of a corner on greasy, slippy roads. It looks to me like they've got crushed limestone in this, and then that just wears off and polishes really nicely. So, you know, it's great when they first lay it down, but once it gets polished, that's the end of it. Yeah, and the rest of it mixed in with it is river gravel, which is all nice and polished and round. So every other tyre that I've had on has slipped and slidden a lot worse than these. These, if they do go into a little bit of a slide, totally controllable and really minimal slide. So yes, are they worth it? Most definitely. I've had these tyres since lockdown pretty much. Luckily here in northern Thailand you can still go for a ride without contravening any fucking international laws, so we've been pretty much using the local racetrack, which is the Highway 1095, which is the road from Chiang Mai to Pai, which is really the first quarter of the Mae Hong Son Loop. So it hasn't been all bad caning these tyres to death on the 1095. I don't know, it's about 180 kilometres of riding on nothing but pretty much linked turns. The only tedious bit is the bit we're doing right now, which is the road to get out to the outer edges of Chiang Mai before you turn off on the 1095. I haven't had any rain. There's been a few trickles of water across the road in places where I've tested the tyre for braking and acceleration, and they spin up pretty quick in the wet, so I definitely would not recommend these tyres for any wet weather riding at all. How do they perform on varying surfaces? Absolutely brilliant. If you get a section with a really nice surface like new asphalt, anything that isn't polished, or greasy, yeah, they just perform exceptionally well. I love the way they arc through a corner just perfectly. Got a hell of a lot to do with the profile of the tyres and of course the stickiness of the rubber. They track really well even on uneven surfaces or bitumen overlaps. What do they call them? Those little tar snakes. it doesn't tram line on any of those lips or surfaces. I love the perfect stiffness of the sidewalls. They're not too stiff, but they're not too soft, so they deform under severe bumps and potholes, which is what you want, but they retain the perfect stiffness in the sidewalls for hard braking into corners or acceleration out of corners. So I'm pretty impressed with the sidewalls. What else? Front end stability and directional control, absolutely outstanding. Probably one of the only tyres I've ever had on the front end of a bike where I haven't even really thought about it since I put them on. They just perform flawlessly. My favourite little tunnel. I feel like a 16-year-old going through there on my bike. Yeah, it's just that they wear too fast, but that's one of the reasons why they stick so well, and they're such an exceptional tyre for control. Anyway, we'll wait until we get out into the corners and start chasing the boys around, or they start chasing me around, and we'll talk a little bit more about them, and we'll take a look at the condition of the front and the back tyres as well after 3,500 kilometres. Do you want to stay out in front?
Huh?
Am I holding you up today?
No, I'll go see how it feels. And
I think you got a completely different attitude now you stripped all that shit off it. You actually think you're on a sport bike now, don't you?
Now I need to ride it like a sport bike as opposed to my touring bike, you know?
Steve has recommended me the Metzeler K3s that I had as a replacement to my Rosso Corsa 3s. And I've had them on the bike now for just under 2,600 kilometers. Stick is phenomenal. The predictability is good in terms of the steer-in is very neutral feeling, but it doesn't steer with the quickness of the Pirelli brand. This seems to have a more rounded profile, so it tips in neutral, but not as quick. The pros are the predictability of the tire. The downsides to me would be mileage. The front tire is wearing out markedly quicker than the rear tire. And I know Steve has probably commented on the same thing with his set.
Same thing.
Same thing. By literally probably 50% quicker. The difference is, and that's with my chassis balanced well. I've been working a lot on suspension to keep the heat as even as I can. And even with a well-balanced chassis setup, the tire wear is borders on, I'll almost say deplorable. Because I think the mileage I should get more than 2,500 kilometers, especially for canyon riding. Steve and I predominantly do canyon riding, no track days. Most of our speeds are not 100-mile-an-hour speeds. We're going at probably 70 kilometers an hour to 80 kilometers an hour tops, typically through the corners, and that's that much wear. So low speed, low weight bikes. I'm on a street triple which weighs 165 kilos dry, similar weight for Steve's MT-07, and the tires are wearing more rapid than I expected. One thing I also noticed was the tire pressure sensitivity. This coming from Pirelli's, where I would set once and never have to worry. Both Steve and I have had front tire leakage, or the PSI drops dramatically. We don't know if it's a bead failure or something else, but it's causing slow leaks in both of our tires. no problems with leaks in the actual carcass of the tire. We don't know if it's seeping out the bead or not. Also, tire pressure sensitivity. Whereas I could leave my Pirellis, I would start with 28 psi cold and run them all day. We can't find tire pressure that works the best and is consistent. We found that 34 psi hot provides the best feedback for us in these conditions. We ride in Thailand where it's notoriously hot, 100 degrees during the seasons we've owned them on the days, humid conditions, and the tires are wearing out rapidly. When we tried to up the PSI to 36, the tires don't stick as well. But worse, when I've dropped the tire pressure down to be the same as the Pirelli, the Metzlers have a much softer sidewall stiffness. So they need more PSI than what the Pirellis I've ridden need. When I've had it as low as 30 PSI, even 32, the front end wants to tuck. The rear end is better behaved on lower PSI, but the front is, to me, feels very, very soft on the Metzeler. And when I push it hard, the front end hard into a corner, it needs to be 34 PSI. If it's 32, or God help you, if it's 30, I feel like I'm almost gonna crash the bike. It's like I'm saving it. I throw it in, and then it slips, and then I gotta pick it up and slow it in gently. I can't lean it over hard consistently.
Oversteers?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And it's disconcerting. Whereas with the Rosso 3s that I've had and the Super Courses, I never got that feeling that I was losing the front or that it was that PSI sensitive, whereas the Metzlers have that. However, they are wonderfully comfortable when you get them in the right PSI setting. They're wonderfully comfortable. They're very user-friendly, I'll call them, given that caveat of the pressure sensitivity and the horrific wear. But yeah, it'll be interesting to continue wearing out this, and then we'll see what other tire we come up with next. See what other drugs Steve gives us to try.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.